ran away with a female lover to travel through Europe, ending up in Italy.
Yeah, so, I guess their other kids are older, right, that they have amongst themselves.
Yeah, this blended family, the kids from their first marriages are much older than Elizabeth.
Yeah, and I think that's typical, even though they're kind of the upper crust and, lavisher, and they sound like good people. They're just enjoying their retirement. They're older now, and they have their hobbies and all this cool stuff they like to do. And then we've talked about this before, you have that, this is our, the kid, we both, have this one kid between us, and everyone dotes on the kid. And it's the little baby and all the siblings, and they tend to be little snots.
Well, I imagine that Elizabeth also felt a lot of pressure to live up to expectations. From what I understand, her dad was a pretty firm, like authoritarian type of guy, and he and his wife had some pretty big expectations of Elizabeth. I mean, their other children were doctors, lawyers, engineers, architects.
Yeah, and he's an executive, and she's an artist. And
from a very prominent family.
Yes, and he's been all over the world and probably did some big projects and,
so
all this stuff.
They're, demanding, here, Elizabeth, you're going to go to this boarding school, you're going to get into a college, you're going to settle on a profession. Probably not just you get an undergraduate, but you'll go on to have a graduate school. I mean, she's probably feeling really pressured.
Well, that sounds like a lot of damn work for a kid. They're away from home. They're somewhere, staying full time somewhere. That sounds pretty tough.
So while she's bumming around Europe and she ends up in Italy with her girlfriend, she also dabbled with drugs. And according to some reports, she had a heroin addiction.
Oh, so she got that boy.
But she was living this bohemian lifestyle. But like most young people of privilege, and a lot of young people in general, Elizabeth relied on her parents for financial support.
Yeah, she's probably doing this damn trip all over the place on a credit card or something.
And so when the money runs out, mom and dad have cut you off. What do? You go crawling back home, right?
Yeah, or you could live in a hostel in Amsterdam and do heroin.
Eventually, Elizabeth returns to the States by 1984, and she moves in with her parents in Virginia. She was 20 by the time she received admission to the University of Virginia, which is a prestigious state university, and she was awarded an elite Eccles scholarship. She had excellent grades and perfect SAT scores.
Oh, wow. So she just took a little time off, right? She's kicking ass.
She's a brilliant girl. But yeah, I mean, she needed a gap year. She needed to get her shit together or whatever.
Yeah.
So those wild oats, whatever you want to call it.
Do a little heroin?
I guess so. It was at orientation that Elizabeth met Jens Soering. He was a German student born in Thailand and educated in public schools, mostly in Atlanta. His father was a German diplomat. Now, compared to Elizabeth, Jens was kind of a nerd.
Yeah, he was very high in his class too, wasn't he?
Well, though his academic record was impressive, and he also was a Jefferson Scholar at UVA, he didn't really feel that he was in Elizabeth's league. I mean, she was like this cool girl on campus, continental, sauntered around just effortlessly, smoking, looking like some French film star.
Yeah, I have to say, from watching some film of her and interviews and such, I don't know if you call it.
She has this air.
She has an air about it. It's not even like being snooty or something. It's like she's just like, ooh, who is that?
It's like this air of elegance or something.
Yeah, it really is.
That you would definitely take notice. And believe me, he took notice. I mean, he was kind of this dorky kid, horn-rimmed glasses. He also had an accent, which they kind of mutually were like, haha, okay, well, we're not, oh, I'm not alone here. Because, she had this very proper...
It was like proper and like
English.
Almost a little taste of, English accent. And here he is, the Jens, very German.
But, he'd been in public schools. He'd been in Atlanta in the South. He'd played in some rock bands. But eventually, Elizabeth fell for Jens. It took some time, but she did. And she saw him as like a tortured artist, much like herself. The two began a romance steeped in feelings of superiority and nihilism.
Yeah, it's a very good description. I can imagine those two. See, he thought he was very... What was it? You say it was a Jefferson Scholar? What is that, like the top 6% of your class or something like that? So I think he made up for some of this worldly elegance that she brought with her And just he thought he was smarter than ever, and he was smart, but he thought.
He's an intellectual, and he definitely has a superiority complex. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. He's very arrogant, very cocky.
Yeah.
And she has the same arrogance, but like in a cool way.
Yeah, in a cool way.
His arrogance has been described as like obnoxious.
Yeah, but what they don't know is I got a degree in the School of Hard Knocks.
Don't be that guy.
Oh, yeah, baby. I put it on Facebook bio.
Are your kids your world?
The only person that can judge me? It ain't a person. It's an omnipotent being. It's God, y'all.
No regrets.
No regrets.
Okay, you're just a cliche. Shut up. Both expressing to each other how they felt smarter than everyone. They were so much more interesting than everybody. They didn't buy into conventional morality. They felt better than everyone in their classes.
Yeah, I could see them actually missing out on a good time because they think they're too fucking cool and smart and above what the riffraff and what the, regular folk
They were hipsters, dude. They were fucking hipsters.
Oh, they were hipsters before that was a thing? Or has that always been a thing?
I mean, it's always been a thing.
Was that like beatniks back in the day?
No, beatniks were cool. No, these were fucking hipsters.
They're yuppies. They're fucking yuppies, y'all.
Yuppie hipsters.
Yuppers.
Yipsters.
Is it yipsters?
I call them yipsters in Asheville.
I've seen yippies. The yuppie hippies.
I call them yipsters in Asheville. They're like super hipster, but they're also like trust funders.
Right.
Who are like, oh my God, we're so cool, but we're going to buy this like $400,000 tiny house.
That's the fucking yippies. They show up at these music festivals, but then they you see them out front begging their way in the gate.
And then they have like a Patagonia.
And then when you see their campsite, it's two fucking Land Rovers backed up and Patagonia tents, North Face gear, and all this fucking shit. Like $3,000 sleeping bags and shit.
Yeah, if you ever want to just see what we're talking about, you should plan an Asheville vacation.
I'm sure it's not the only place.
No, I'm sure you can go to Portland or lots of other places, but Asheville has lots of this.
So they're too cool for everybody. They're smarter than everybody.
For school, and they're so smart, and they're just reading like Russian novels and smoking,
discussing amongst themselves.
Talking about cool bootlegs like from Europe that you can't even find here in the U.S.
Oh my fucking God.
And, probably like German films. Like, oh, we watched German expressions films were cool. The first semester was like a whirlwind for these two. They're hanging out on campus and they're writing these tortured love letters to one another.
Oh my God, the letters.
The letters. We have to talk about the letters.
You've got to hear and read some of these letters.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Oh wow! And I mean, you really think it was damn Shakespeare writing this shit or something, right?
Oh, totally. And Elizabeth writes in this very like spontaneous prose kind of way, and then Jens is obviously trying to like be cool and keep up with her, but you can tell it's not natural for him, and he's much more like structured in his writing, and everything has to be like just so. So it's just kind of interesting. It's entertaining. Yeah,
he's like here in this dark room as the ghost, flutter about in the corner. You're like, fuck you, dude. Nobody thinks like that. Teenagers,
I have swam oceans of time to be with you.
Or I can't even make fun of shit. I can't even think like that.
Roses are red, stupid. Violets are blue. Let's eat candy and get fat with each other too. Does that work?
That's not, yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I mean, that's pretty much what we do. Is just sit around, like eating Oreos. And
so I mean, this on and on and on.
So we're painting this picture. I mean, you can just imagine these two, right? She's probably wearing like some black turtleneck and a beret, smoking, and he's all like, wearing his little glasses and trying to be like,
he's a little ass dude too.
I'm cool too.
Yeah, he's like $140.
So winter break came, and Elizabeth went to her parents' home at Loose Chippings while Jens traveled to Detroit. So by this time, his father's been transferred from Atlanta up to Detroit. And Jens' father was described as a stern man with a temper, and his mother described as an alcoholic. And he had not grown up in Michigan, and his father, as I mentioned, only recently transferred there. So you can imagine he's not really feeling this winter break because he's at home. Sounds like maybe his parents are kind of a bit of a hot mess. He doesn't really have any friends to go hang out with.
He's in a new area. Atlanta to Michigan's going to be quite different, right?
And he just came from college where he's hanging out and having a good time. Everything's fun. He's got this hot girlfriend. And then now he's in the Detroit. And it's just like he's just not living it up in Motor City.
Oh, my soul is tortured without you, my love.
I mean, come on. He should be dancing in the streets.
And she was
in Motor
whisked
City.
away to her parents' modest retirement estate.
Well, Elizabeth wasn't really feeling the extended break
Was
at
it
her
Chippy
parents'
Sparrows?
house.
What is it?
Loose chippings.
Hello. Is this the part, the loose chippings? Is it? Oh, good. I have the Lord's wife or the Lord's daughter.
Pardon me, I'm driving on the wrong side of the road. Could you please get those little sheep out of the way?
Can you move those poor unfortunates?
May we go have some fish and chips later?
Oh my God, we're
We
stereotyping.
do have some British listeners, folks over in the UK, and they're probably like either turning us off right now or they're laughing because they're like, these people are raving mad.
Oh no, I did that with love in my heart. I love the British culture, the comedy. I love the Queen.
The clotted cream.
I love the fucking Queen, guys.
I fucking love the clotted cream.
Yeah.
Okay. So Elizabeth's not really feeling being at home either. Her father was also, as I mentioned, an authoritarian, and he had these really high expectations of her. I'm sure he's spending the break on her about, how are your grades? What have you been doing? You need to work harder. All those pressures.
Yeah, have you taken over a company yet?
Elizabeth and her mom butted heads frequently. They just never really got along, which, I think a lot of women can relate to this. You butt heads with your teenage daughter, but I remember that age. Like, I wasn't a teenage girl who got along with my mother at all. I thought my mom was fucking annoying, and I just didn't like her.
Man, people want to talk about the lion and, the younger lion come trying to take out dad. What shit. Women and their mama.
Girls and their mother.
Oh, my God. Every time, dude, in some form or fashion, it is going down.
My best friend and her mother were like best friends. Like, my best friend could tell her mom anything. Her mom was like the coolest, sweetest woman.
The whole time?
I thought she was precious. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've been best friends with my girl since
so they never had that competition or those butting heads?
No, they were never like that. But my mom and I just didn't get along. I mean, there were many years when I just wanted her to go away. Get somewhere and get still, Mom, right? So Elizabeth and her mom, butting heads. They don't get along. She's always nagging at her. Elizabeth thought her parents were controlling. They were manipulative. After the winter break, Elizabeth and Jens would sneak away to her parents' home when they were out of town. And Jens also learned of Elizabeth's heroin addiction at some point, stating that he had seen some small needle marks on her arm.
Oh, so she's still doing the big H.
There was some moment where he had, after the winter break, gone to her dorm room or her apartment, wherever she was living, and she had some small needle marks on her arm.
Yeah.
And said that her dealer had stopped by. Now, she denies this, but he's like, no, this happened.
Yeah, and it was Stringer Bell from The Wire. And he knew something was going on.
Yeah, Stringer Bell.
Oh, that's a big man.
Idris Elba.
That's a big, pretty man.
I would climb him. The Haysoms
I would allow it.
Okay. Well, the Haysoms went to Charlottesville in the early spring to take their daughter to lunch. And of course, Elizabeth wants to bring along her new boyfriend. Now, immediately, the Haysoms were not impressed. They did not like Jens. They thought he was arrogant, odd. He even expressed some Nazi types of views.
Whoa, Yen.
And her parents were like, no.
Well, no, and I think they very quickly, even though he likes to have that air and he is a smart guy and all, they might be the type of parents like, you're not good enough for our daughter. And he's just kind of weird. Little dude, kind of creepy, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, I feel like he could totally star in like Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh, he could have totally been in their house, one of the members.
He could have been a lambda.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he totally could have. But they just didn't like him. And they expressed their disapproval, even later telling some relatives that they thought Elizabeth could do much better for herself than Jens.
The Jens here. The Jens is writing you again.
Letters continued to be exchanged between Jens and Elizabeth, some growing more bizarre. And they were just really raw and kind of, you can see this sort of spiral. where they just keep getting like darker and
Oh,
more
really?
out there.
Oh, so now it's like, are they kind of creating this the world's against us?
Yes.
The storied romance must survive.
Yeah, I mean, initially it was like puppy love kind of stuff, but then it just grows much